Okay, so we've been talking about strategy. You've gotten an overview from Professor Conger on four different strategic perspectives or ways to think about strategy. In the last video, I talked about the resource-based view and Porter's five forces, kind of an external view in more depth. So what should you do? You've got to be able to answer the question, what will provide a competitive advantage and what's difficult to copy? And that's what's meant by this phrase, unfair advantage. If I just say, our firm has, I don't know, good engineers, great engineers even. Okay, that's fine, and that might provide you that might make you competitive in the marketplace, but is it really going to give you an unfair advantage, or can other firms also get great engineers? So you need to really think not only about what's going to make you good, but what's going to be difficult for others to imitate, whether that's internal to the firm or whether that's in terms of your position within the industry. So again, there's two places to look: the resources that you control and the industry that you occupy, the place, your location within the industry. One way I like to encourage students to start thinking about this is to think about placing themselves on some sort of competitive matrix. So I've drawn a matrix here. In this case, the vertical axis says value for money, and the horizontal axis says the basis of competition. So what you need to think about, value for money I often use as kind of my generic vertical axis. These could actually be they could both be different bases for competition. But I like value for money because often cost is just a critical component of your approach, right? The basis of competition is going to vary a lot depending on the industry that you're in. So you want to think about, like, what are people in my industry competing on? Like, what's the key part of the problem, or what's the unique value proposition that I'm offering? Like, what is it that I'm competing on? When people compare my product to another product in the same industry, how are they going to make their decisions? So part of it may be cost, which is why I've got the value for money on the vertical axis. But what's that other thing? Is it performance? Is it quality? Is it aesthetics? Is it convenience? What is that critical dimension that people are going to use to compare your product with other similar products? So I use the example of motorcycles. Oh, I got to move my video again here. So let's pretend I've got some new technology. I'm launching a motorcycle company. I'm going to make some motorcycles. And I start to lay out the competition. I start to say, okay, I think that, low cost is important. So again, value for money, higher up on that line means lower cost, and performance. In this case, let's just say that performance, and we could define that. We'd probably want to get more specific. Is it speed? Is it, reliability? Is it power? But let's just kind of go for now with just this generic performance label. And I could say, there's some motorcycle companies out there that provide really low-cost motorcycles, but the performance isn't great. They're not super reliable. They're certainly not powerful or fast or anything else. So I think of Jumbo, and I think of Rybar. These are both brands that are pretty prominent in Nicaragua, where I've purchased motorcycles before, twice. Genesis, Genesis is another company. And all of these do fairly well. You'll see Jumbo is probably the, close to the cheapest, but maybe the worst performance. Rybar is definitely on the low cost. It's on the upper end of that of that matrix, but it's not great performance. I actually own a Rybar, so I'm not opposed to them. I was more than willing to pay cheap money for a pretty okay, reliable motorcycle, even though it's certainly not fast or powerful. It gets me around to little villages, which is what I needed. Genesis is a little more expensive. I've had one of those before as well, and the performance is a little better, but a little more expensive. And then we could look over, the Ariel Aero, by all accounts, was just a horrible motorcycle. Like it had almost no clearance. You can see the kickstand is up there, but you can see how low that clearance is. So anytime riders would turn the motorcycle, you lean into a turn on a motorcycle, it would scrape the muffler on the ground. So people just hated them. They weren't cheap, and the performance was terrible. So that's a bad quadrant to be in. On the other hand, Ducati, makes some really nice scramblers, and they make a really nice lots of things, right? I just threw a picture of a scrambler up there, but it's way low on our graph because it's not low cost at all. These are fairly high cost bikes, but the performance is quite high, right? But where do I want to compete? My new company, let's just pretend my fictional motorcycle company is it's gonna be both low cost and really high performance. Now, I've got to have some sort of way to get there. Maybe I'm building electric bikes that use some sort of quantum leap in battery technology to deliver these super high performing bikes for a pretty low cost. I don't know, right? So this is sort of a fictional. I don't have a good theory for how I would actually pull this off, but for the purpose of illustration, let's say that I've got that figured out. I can start to kind of map out where these different bikes are on this competitive matrix. Once I've done that, I want to think about what resources I need to develop to compete on this key dimension, right? So do I need engineering know-how? Do I need manufacturing capabilities? Do I need access to key suppliers? Like, what is it that's going to allow me to be low cost and high performance at the same time? Like, what are the key resources and capabilities? So how am I going to develop those resources? And how am I going to position myself in the industry? How can I create barriers to entry? So let's say that I'm working with a new supplier that builds, that does next generation batteries or something. And maybe these batteries are going to a whole host of different applications. But maybe I tell the battery supplier, hey, I tell you what, you guys let me be your exclusive motorcycle dealer, buyer of these batteries. I'll pay you more for these batteries in exchange for an agreement where you won't sell them to any other motorcycle producer, right? And so then I've created a barrier to entry to my competition. They can't copy my design without getting access to this battery, and they can't get access to the battery because I've got an exclusive agreement with the supplier. Or maybe it's all about the engineering know-how. Maybe I've engineered a new technology that's going to make my bike super low cost, but also super high performing. So I just want to be thinking about that. In what ways can I build capabilities or resources or industry positions that give me an unfair advantage that others can't copy? So what's your unfair advantage? I'm going to push you guys to think in your teams about what would give your company an unfair advantage, not just what would make it good, but what would be difficult to copy for other firms that are currently in the industry or that could enter if they see you being successful. All right, I will see you soon.